You're not going to want to miss this episode of the AI Show where we talk about the new Azure Machine Learning CLI version 2 and SDK v2 with my friend Bala. Make sure you tune in. Hello and welcome to this wonderful episode of the AI Show. We're going to talk about the new Azure Machine Learning CLI version 2 and SDK version 2. I've got my friend Bala. Bala, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Hey, Seth, my name is Bala Venkataraman. I'm a PM in the Azure Machine Learning team, and we're currently working on releasing the SDK and CLI for our customers.
So we've had an SDK and a CLI since the dawn of humankind, or at least the dawn of Azure Machine Learning humankind. What's new?
Yep. Okay. I'm going to show you something. So what's new in the CLI and SDK v2? So the CLI currently, the new CLI we have supports a whole bigger range of products, a bigger range of surface area across the Azure Machine Learning. And what's new with this is with the new CLI, you can do Azure Machine Learning with a language of your choice. You don't have to learn any new language. We support Python, we support R, we support Java, Julia, or C#. So no pressures, no need to learn a new language. And since we're doing the CLI v2 with command lines, and it supports pretty much every operation in Azure Machine Learning, automation and deployment becomes that much more easier. Now we have also some new features which comes with CLI v2, which is our managed inferencing and reusable components for our pipeline, so that you don't have to keep writing components again and again. Now, what do we get with the SDK v2? We've got all this goodness in CLI v2. We want to make sure that all this goodness is passed on to the Python SDK v2 as well. So Python SDK v2 has all this consistency and support, which we have in CLI v2, but also we've now improved the Python SDK so that we have Python functions which help us to build any workflow. And this also helps us to go from simple to complex tasks a lot more easily than before.
So this is amazing. Can you show us? I'd love to see like some of the new things in there.
Of course. So let's do some show and tell. To start with, let's look at the command line. All right, so here's what AZML or the new CLI shows. This shows us the list of commands, what we could do with AZML, AZML -- help. So now let's look at one of the things here, which is job. Let's see what we could do with jobs. So let me type AZML job -- help. And it shows us that, hey, this is what a job means. And you can do archive, cancel, create, download, list, restore, show, stream, update, a bunch of stuff, right? Pretty simple. Now, we saw another thing. Let's look at another example. AZML, let's say model -- help. And there you go. So with model, it tells us what the model is, and what can we do? Archive, create, download, list, restore, show, update. So if you can see, we can do pretty much most of the same things across all assets in a consistent way, job or model or many other things. So that brings the consistency part into the CLI, and it's easy. You don't have to keep learning new things over and over again for every new asset you try to work with in Azure Machine Learning.
Bala, this has been really cool so far. I mean, I love learning about the commands, AZML, and it's cool that you can look through it. Do you get any other help with the command line stuff?
Yes. So I use this cool tool called Visual Studio Code. While you can do YAML in anything, I prefer using Visual Studio Code because it has these awesome features like autocomplete and whatnot. So let's say I want to use a compute. I go here and I press Control Space, and it shows me, hey, these are the bunch of stuff I have. So I can use this compute, and I want an environment. And I can do a Control Space here, and it gives me a bunch of curated environments in my stuff. And let's say, hey, I'm not playing nice with it. I just used input, and it gives me a squiggly line saying it's not okay. So which means I should mean input. So it allows me autocomplete, and it gives syntax corrections and IntelliSense right here. So I love the VS Code for that.
I mean, this is before we get to it, because I want to make sure that there's clarity. this YAML is stuff that you pass into the command line that describes the job. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Well, let's go take a look at a job real quick.
Okay. Now this command job, I say that, hey, I have some source files in this director's src. I want to run this command, which is python main.py, and I want to pass one parameter, which is a diabetes CSV parameter, and the input for that parameter is this. Now I've defined this input here, which I'm saying is a file, and it's available in this path. I want to run it in this environment. I want to run it using this compute and display name and experiment name. Simple YAML file. Now, since I am in Visual Studio Code, I can just click this button here, which is the execute YAML, and it's going to just execute the YAML. Or I could also just say AZML job create -- file and this job.yaml. So both ways are okay. The Visual Studio Code just makes it easier by clicking this button. Now I'm running this command for a Python job. I could run a similar command for R as well. So this is what that thing does. Pretty much everything is the same. Code is in source. Inputs are this. Our environment is this. The only thing which is different is, hey, command R script this file and this data. So very simple, pretty much the same way of running commands for both Python or R. So that brings us how easy the language is, right? And not just single jobs. The next one is a pipeline. I have multiple jobs here. Say I have a prep job, I have a transform job, and I have a train job and predict job. All of them are defined in pretty much the same way, right? Type, input, outputs, environment, compute, and what is a command. And I run them also using the same way AZML job create this pipeline.yaml. Now, when I run these on the browser, after they run, what happens is, let's look at the diabetes example, what we ran. It completed with these inputs, which you saw I provided in the YAML file. The R example also ran the same way. And the pipeline, which I told you had 5 steps, ran like this.
Interesting. This is cool because it allows you to declaratively describe machine learning things. And look, I have said this for many years. ML ops isn't a product. It's the union of people and process and products. And you're saying that here with the CLI, you can create any kind of, like, you can probably put this into a GitHub action or whatever
Yes.
other workflow thing that you want to do for your job.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's cool. So tell us about the SDK. Anything to show us there?
Yes. So now I have an SDK. What I want to show are 2 things here. First is how simple it is for the SDK. The SDK, I am creating a command, which is a command job, which you saw in this diabetes. And let's look at the SDK now. The SDK also constructs the command in a very, very similar fashion, right? It has a code, it has a command, it has inputs, environment, compute, display, and then you run it saying that my ML client create or update a job, right? And it's not, so very similar function. You create a function and run it. The good part is, if I want to create a pipeline with multiple steps, it is exactly the same way. So in this example, I have 2 commands. One is a train command, which, like I showed you, I'm creating the same way, a command and code and everything. And then I have a predict command, which also I do the same way. Now, how do I build a pipeline? I say, hey, I have this new DSL functionality in pipeline in Azure ML, and I say, hey, this is my pipeline. This is my 2 steps, and the first step is the train command, which I created with these inputs. The second step is the predict command, which I created with these inputs. So anyone who is a lover of Python and loves Python functions can see that this is just a very simple way of doing it. So I can have 2 Python functions and say, this is my pipeline. And then what do? I just submit it the same way. Hey, ML client jobs create this pipeline. That's it. So the SDK makes it it's improved in the sense that it's more Python friendly, and it is very consistent with the CLI. So it's easy for people to move across CLI and SDK depending on where you want to go.
And look, I may pretend I haven't done some of this stuff, but I've been using Azure Machine Learning for years, And it's, to me, and this is the first time I've seen the new version of the SDK, it's really cool that the way the SDK is organized almost looks exactly like the YAML, in the sense that, like, you could interchange them. You could use the nouns or you could use the verbs from the SDK. So I guess a good question is, when would you suggest using one versus the other?
Yes. So let's look at that. The SDK and YAML are both extremely good things in your arsenal. The SDK is suitable when you're agnostic to languages, right? You're not necessarily a lover of one language, but you want to stick with your language, but want to use Azure ML. So that is a very great fit for an SDK, for a CLI scenario. I'm sorry. So the CLI is suitable when you don't want to stick to a particular language, but you want to be able to use any one of these languages like Python, R, Java, Julia, or C Sharp. And the CLI is also really suitable for production sort of workflows where you just want to have simple command lines and have automation and deployment. It's very lightweight. The SDK, the Python SDK v2, is suitable obviously for all Python lovers, right? It's good for development, especially Python lovers who want to use it for development can use it. They can build simple commands or a chain of commands using Python-like functions, and it helps you to move from smaller to bigger easily. Like I showed you, just build command after command and then hook them up together. So if you're a Python lover and want some of those really cool stuff, what we've offered in terms of Pythonic way of doing things, stick to Python SDK v2. But if you are not if you're not necessarily hardcore on Python and want to do a lot of automation and lightweight deployments, CLI is the thing for you. And you could also move from SDK v2 for development. And once you have all your stuff, since we are very similar in how we construct stuff, you can convert the SDK function, the SDK Python functions into YAML file and use them in production as well. So that's an option too.
I mean, really cool. I love all of the I love the choices that you have when you do this. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, Bala. Question: where can people go to find out more?
Yes. So the CLI is available in aka.ms AML CLI v2. And for SDK, you can go to aka.ms AML SDK v2.
Fantastic. I'll put those links up again. AML CLI v2 and then SDK v2. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, my friend. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We've been learning all about the new Azure Machine Learning CLI v2 and SDK v2 on the AI Show. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care.